Hey guys, Chinese Chris Fix here. Today we're going to fix the Kobot RV353 vacuum cleaner. This vacuum cleaner is fantastic when it works, and there are already videos on YouTube that teaches you how to maintain the roller brush underneath, take out all the hair and stuff. But what I've found is after you've used it for a year or two, even with regular maintenance, hairs tend to get stuck beyond the axles, and there are actually two specific places inside the vacuum cleaner which you can clean. And in this video, I'm going to teach you how to disassemble the vacuum cleaner and clean those two places so it will start working just like brand new. But before that, let's take a look at the tools. And we're back. These are all the tools you're going to need for this job. Let's go over them one by one. First, you're going to need a toothbrush. This is going to help you to brush up all the dust gathered up after you open up the vacuum cleaner. Then you're going to need some small screwdrivers. You don't need two sets. You actually only need one of them because the size seems to be the same for every screw. But as you can see, this screwdriver, I like this set because the bits are stronger. However, they're shorter, so it won't reach down to the deeper holes. I got another set that has a little bit of longer bit that reaches down to the deeper holes, but the bit size is smaller than the screw itself, so it's not optimal. I've already broken one of the flathead from this set, so as long as you can get one Phillips, I believe it's number 1 size. It should be around 3mm, I think, for the bit Phillips. Then it will fit all the holes that you're gonna do. You're also going to need a pair of tweezers to pick out the hair stuck on the axle. Tape. A pair of pliers to help you torque the screws of the vacuum cleaner, because when you're using the small screwdrivers, it's really hard to torque it with your fingers. They're put on really tight from the factory. So I use a pair of pliers to grab onto the screwdriver and torque it. You're gonna need some wet paper towels, dry paper towel, and a nice and strong handheld vacuum cleaner to suck out all the dust from inside the unit itself. Oh, and I also made a screw chart, so after I undo screws, I can just stick each screws on the chart itself, so I won't lose them, and I'll always know where the screw goes after I'm done. This piece of paper is actually the cover of the vacuum cleaner that it comes in. So let's get to it. Here, I just finished one cycle on this vacuum cleaner, so it's really dirty and there are a lot of dust inside the dustbin, and the roller brush is also full of long hair. First thing is use your wet paper towel and try to clean off the whole vacuum cleaner, and then dry it off with some dry paper towel so that when you work on it, you don't inhale all the dust and stuff. So let's do that right now, and I'll be back when it's clean.
And what exactly are your demands?
We need more lemon pledge.
You need more lemon pledge.
Yes.
Well, I don't know how Chris does it, but as you can see, I've already taken off my gloves. My hand felt super gross in those surgical gloves for some reason. Anyway, I finished cleaning the outside of the vacuum cleaner, and as you can see, it's quite dirty. I also cleaned all the nooks and crannies, in the front sensor and all that, and then I dry it off with a piece of dry paper towel. Next, we're gonna do the regular maintenance. So what you do is just twist the brushes out, set it aside. There's a piece of hair there. Okay, and then the other one. Take it out, just unscrew it like you open a bottle, set it aside, and in here, you could clean them with a toothbrush too if you want to, but I usually just wipe it with the paper towel that you were using. So you just wipe the inside, the axles like that. It's not that important. This part doesn't stop rotating really. And then you take this cover off by pushing it at see the brown hairs here. You push it to the front and lift it up like that. Take it out, set this one aside. This one you should also clean. As you can see, there's some pieces of hair there, so you just pull those hair out and put it in the garbage like that. And then comes the roller brush. So you can see it's really messy in there. Hair is all tangled up and stuff. You push to the side without the grooves. So on the left side here, there's some grooves. On this side, there's no groove. So you push it this way, and sometimes you have so much hair stuck in these two spots that you can't even take this out. You can't even push it enough to take it out, right? When that happens, you need some sort of hook or small screwdrivers or tweezers or whatever to clean the hair between the roller and the axle before you can successfully pull this part out. So let me try it now, because I just ran this through one cycle and it shouldn't get stuck now. So try to pull it with one hand. That works. All right, so as you can see, this side has a square peg on it, and the other side is just a pin. Now I'm gonna take this out and just concentrate on the amount of hair it collect. Look, it's crazy. Look, see? So this piece of long hair collects on the axle here, right? You can take it out like that. With one hand is really hard. Okay, you can take out that piece of hair like that. Throw it away. But you can already see the problem. Like if hair collects here, it will also collect there, right? So every time you maintain it, besides pulling out the hair from the brush, you should also look at, you know, this part and see if there are actually hairs stuck around it. And you can push it in a little bit so that, you know, it's stuck up like that, to see if there are actually hair caught behind where the axle is. This part isn't that important, because after we disassemble the vacuum cleaner, you're gonna see these two parts are exactly what we're gonna clean. And that, you know, when we disassembled it, if they designed it better, I think they should have made two little doors here, like one door here and another door here, so that we can open those doors and clean the axles. But you know, it's not like that, so we gotta disassemble to get to here. And then you're supposed to clean this brush. Since I only have one hand right now, I'll set this aside, but you already know how to clean this well, so don't worry about it. Just put that brush, you know, somewhere along with these. I just carry a little small bag so I can put everything in. And then if you look at the axle on this side, the square peg, a lot of hair that's stuck, see, on there itself. And you have to clean these, because after a while, the hair stuck on the square peg is gonna slowly drift inside the axle, and it's gonna make it stuck, and you can't maintain it that way. So you have to check this part and make sure, you know, it's clean. And right, like that. So after you clean both places, you grab your handheld vacuum and vacuum the opening. And at this stage, I'll actually grab my toothbrush to you know, brush it down. If you plan to disassemble it, if you're not disassembling it, you don't really have to do this part, because it's gonna get dirty anyway the next time you use it. But for disassembling, I usually make it really clean, because when I open it up, I don't want dust going everywhere inside the machine and breathing them in myself. So, you know, I brush it down like that. And while you're at it, you can brush, you know, where the feeder brush attaches to. So I brush everything here like that, and then I vacuum it again. Great. So now we can turn it around and take out the dustbin. And when you turn the vacuum cleaner around, make sure you don't point the front of the vacuum cleaner to the floor, because dust is gonna fall out from this hole right here. See? So when I turn it around, I usually hold the sensor side, the sensor bar side, and hold it up like that and flip it like that. So, you know, the hole always points upwards like that. And then I turn it around slowly like that. You can also see that I added a piece of tape, just a black masking tape, because the LEDs are getting really bright at night. You know, it's kind of freaky seeing it run in the living room, having Christmas lights and stuff. So it's dirty again, so I clean it again. Part. And you open the dustbin compartment and lift it slowly. You know, the hole is there, right? So make sure you lift it and point the hole up like that, right? And I usually clean this whole thing inside a garbage bag, so I don't breathe any of them in. So for now, I'll put that in that bag. And I'll set the whole thing aside here. Like that. And then you see that it's really dirty inside. So I'll vacuum that again. You should brush it again. Also brush this part. This is, you know, the intake, like the air, the fan part. Then I'll brush the whole tub. That too. Great. Now vacuum it again. And now it should be ready for disassembly. So, you know, without putting the dustbin back in, close it and turn it over and get ready. So, you notice there's some dust already came out. Vacuum again. More vacuum. We're non-stop vacuuming. And we'll be back to disassemble the robot. See you in a bit. And we're back. So here's just going all through the screws that you need to take out before you can split the two halves open and access, you know, what's behind here and what's behind there. So the first two screws I'll undo is actually the battery compartment. So I'll do this one and that one. Okay. Now after you take this out, you can take out the battery, and there will be one screw beneath the battery compartment that you have to take out. I call that number 1. That screw is marked on the chart here. That's number 1, that one. And then these two visibles, and these two pairs of visible screws that attaches the wheel, you can ignore them. Don't touch them. You don't have to disassemble them at all. They're fine. But you have to take out one screw here, one here. These are sensors. These aren't screws. So there's the hole next to the sensor. There's a screw down there. It's really deep. That's what I was talking about, the longer bits to reach down. So 2 here. So 1 underneath there. 1, 2, 3, and then on the other side 4, 5, right? And then there's one screw beneath this wheel here, 6, and then 4 screws on the sensor bar itself. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So 6 plus 4 is 10. So a total of 10 screws you need to take out before you can split the two halves away from each other. Let's do the first 2 for now, and then I'll put the rest on hyperlapse. See you later. So to take out the first screw, you actually undo the battery compartment. Like that. I don't mark these two because I'm gonna keep them with the battery itself, so I'm not gonna lose them. So you can put it aside here. Right. And you can lift the cover by holding this part like that. Below the cover there are 2 little notches, right? And these goes into the slits there. So make sure you're doing that when you put them back on. So take them out like that. I set it aside like that. And the battery, is inside, is there. You don't have to turn it off, but if you want to, you can. It's not gonna kill you. It's only 3 cells. But you can turn it off for now. So, make sure the switch is off. And you can just take out the battery by holding the wires like slowly. Take it out like that. Now, when you take out batteries, try to remember how it went in, like how it was in the first place. So the battery was like this. Try to remember this, or you can take a picture of your phone, on each steps. But remember that the wire actually comes out from the top. So when you put it back in, don't flip it and do that. It won't fit like that. So the wires are actually from here. Then you take it out, and then there's a connector there. This connector is on a hook, and you need to press. It's like those PC connectors. You need to press on this so the hook release. See that hook? And you can pull that connector out, right? It's quite hard to do with one hand. So I'm gonna be right back. There, so I detach the battery from the vacuum cleaner. You can set this aside. And for some reason, when you plug it back in, you don't remember which way it goes. Like, you don't remember which way it goes. There's a tiny notch on the connector itself, right? And this notch fits the cutout on the socket. So you see on the socket, the other side has no cutout. This side is a cutout. So that notch has to line up with the cutout, to push it back in. So you won't, you can't plug it in wrong, basically. You can't, if you go backwards, then, but you shouldn't anyway. Because if the metal touches each other, there's a chance that you can short out this battery and explode this LiPo battery. This is the scary phone batteries that explodes. So just be mindful when you're doing it. So set that aside. And after you take out the battery, you'll notice that there's a screw underneath, right? That's the first screw we're going to take out. And I'm going to put on time lapse. The second screw I'll take out is actually beneath this wheel. Right, and the way to do that is you just pop this wheel off with your fingernails. Just hold one of the axle side, you can reach underneath like that and just pop it out. Just pick at it. See, it comes out. Just pick at it. When you take this out, there's a pin in the middle that's really slippery and it'll fall if you just yank it out. So see this? There's a pin there, right? This pin, whoa, it's really slippery. Goes in between the wheel like that. So make sure you don't lose it. Keep it together, or you can tape it down, whatever you want, but don't lose that pin. Then set that wheel outside, and if you rotate the housing, just turn it to 12 o'clock. Turn it up all the way. You see a hole there, and that would be the second screw that I take out. So in order for the hyperlapse, what I'll do is I'll take this one as 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, then 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? See you guys in a bit.
Yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. You want food. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
So as you can see, by the end of that time lapse, I was I had to torque these 4 screws. These other ones I also had to torque them because they really tight from the factory. But since I just disassemble and reassemble yesterday to test it, this time when I screw them back in, I don't do it like totally super tight. I don't torque them down. I just do it until it's tight and I let go. But the sensor bar ones, they are not wood screws. So these ones, you notice they're pointy. Right, these are like wood screws into the plastic itself. But the 4 screws on the sensor bar are machine screws with a flat end. So these are way harder to get the thread correctly, and turn it out and so yesterday when I assembled it again, I had to torque them in basically with a pair of pliers. So now when I want to take them out to show you guys, it's quite hard. So I don't think I need to show this part on camera. So what you do is you just stick the screwdriver in there and try to turn it by hand, right? I don't think you can, but maybe you get better tools than me. You get a fatter handle ones. If you can't turn them, by hand, right? Just get a pair of pliers and push the top, push the top down with your finger and torque it with the pair of pliers. So I'll come back when I finish undoing all 4 screws on the top. But as you can see from the time lapse, I've already take out 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and 6. So now just 4 left. Okay, be right back. Okay, I finished torquing the 4 screws out of the sensor, and the screws are still in there but loose. And now you can lift the 3 parts that you need to take out of the vacuum cleaner before you can split the 2 halves. So the first thing to take out would be the bottom part, the bottom bar here. So if you take it out, it will come with the screws. It will be really loose after you finish the screws, so don't worry about it. Nothing's gonna fall out. So take it up slowly, and these are kind of like the cups for the screws. So if you don't feel like it, you actually don't have to mark them. You can leave them, in this part. But if you want to clean up this part, see all these dots here, then it's better to just take out the screws and mark them on the chart here. So I'm just going to leave them here because I'm not going to clean it. And, as you can see, I already go ahead and taped the relevant screws to the chart already, so I won't forget. Right, so that's how that looks like. After you take that out, there's a piece of rubber gasket that holds the 2 halves of the sensor bar together. So this thing, you can just lift it up like that. You don't have to be too careful, just lift it up. While you're lifting it up, notice how the rings, so there's all a rubber ring that go into the pegs there, right? So when you put it back on, make sure they line up. And also the bottom, slit lines up with the edge here. So you can put it back nicely. So now you just lift them up like that. There are 4 holes. You lift up the gasket, and you can set that aside. Like that, so that's the second piece. Then the third piece, you have to turn this over and lift that away from the unit. So, but before that, I think I'll clean this part up a little bit. See, I hurt my finger yesterday doing this, and it healed a bit already, but after putting Chris Fix gloves on, it kind of pulled back on the cuticles, and it bleeds again. so I stopped wearing gloves. Anyway, I cleaned this part up. Nice. Okay, good. Then I turn it over. Hold the, the front, the sensor. Turn it over. Ah, there we go. Nice sound. Turn it over, and you can just lift the cover up. Just go up. Clear the edges. Just make sure nothing's latching the edges. And just slowly lift it up like that, right? And the reason, what you'll see, like after I lift the whole thing up, you'll see that there, dowels thingy, like where the screw used to sit, that has to go back into these holes, right? So when you assemble it, make sure you push these like all the way in, before you turn it over and finish the other part. So lift it up, the attachments, and that would be the third piece of the cover. Now, after these three pieces are done, you can lift this whole thing up. You don't have to open this, by the way. Just leave it like this the dustbin cover. Just leave it closed. Doesn't matter. It's not a part of it. Just leave it closed. And you don't have to worry about the buttons too. There are no springs in there. Nothing's gonna fall out basically. So just don't worry. Just gently, pick on all the sides. It's really hard to do one hand, but try my best. There we go. See, I even shook it. Don't worry about it. Just lift it up. And nothing's attached, right? See? There we go. And the reason why it feels heavy is there's counterweights in the back. There are two pieces of counterweights in the back. So this part is quite hefty. You can feel the weight, this part. And it's quite dusty in there. You can clean them up too if you want. But the cover, it's one whole piece. So it's just one piece like that. You don't need it. Set it aside. Oh, there we go. And inside there, it shouldn't be too dusty, except the fan part. So I'll clean the fan part. And the dustbin hole, there's some slits that let dust through, go in there. And you can inspect it a little bit, So this is the suspension spring for the wheel. I tried yesterday. I never knew you never had to take out the wheel screws, so I took them out, and the thing sprung out on me and broke part of the hook. I tried to mend it with glue, but I don't know how well it works. I stuck it back in anyway, so you can see now that it looks broken because it is broken. But it's bad design because the way this hook is designed is actually two halves of the shell that comes together. So this is not broken, but you can already see a split in the middle. So sooner or later this is gonna break, But anyway, I managed to fix it with some hook, and I also tie a piece of rubber band that apparently broke off from my last usage. So I tied a piece of rubber band around the wheel for that piece to cure. So I don't know, seems to have been cured. Don't need that, it's garbage. But that's how the spring is attached. So for some reason, if you want to clean your wheels in the future and you undo the wheel screws, to clean the wheels, you'll notice that, you'll probably unhook the spring from the bottom, right? And it's much harder to put the spring back into the hook when you're working from the bottom. From the top is no problem. You just pull the spring and put it back into the hook. From the bottom is quite tricky. You need to use a small screwdriver to lift, the spring up to the hook while the wheel is sitting 45 degrees to hook it back in. So my advice is just don't disassemble the wheel at all. Just leave it alone. You know, if it gets dirty or whatever, just use a pair of tweezers to pick at it instead of taking the whole wheel out, because you're not going to accomplish much by taking the wheel out. Really, you can't really clean it that well anyway, so don't do that. So back to our task. So as you can see, yeah, you can imagine, you can't see, but you can imagine that this is where the roller brush sit, and these two sides are the axles, right? So my suspicion was that after cleaning the hair of the roller brush, I suspect some hair actually got past the roller brush into the axle. So I open it up, and I can see that, I would need to open these two things up, right? So what I did was I opened, two sides. So this time I can use my good screwdriver because it's not that deep. So if you open this side, this side's fine. It's easy to reach because the PCB have some room that you can reach there. This side, it's also good. So you actually don't need to take out the PCB. I took it out yesterday just to have more easy access, but you don't need to. Just leave the PCB here. And each side of these tiny black boxes have two black screws. So the left side is like that. The right side, there's one black screw here, one black screw here. Silver screws, leave them alone. Don't worry about it. They're not part of the problem. I already tried yesterday, so I know what's going on. So so let's do this side first. Let's unscrew that. If for some reason the screws fall in, like try not to have them fall in, but if they fall in, just get a piece of magnet, get them back out. So that one's one. Here. It's the other one. There we go. Set that aside like that. And then after you take them out, you'll notice this is just a cover, like a plastic cover, like as if they know this is gonna happen. Like, it's crazy, Like, why don't you put this cover on the underside of the machine so we can service it? But no, they have to keep it inside. But anyway, you lift that cover, all right? And yours is not gonna be as clean as mine because I just cleaned mine yesterday. But I cleaned mine totally yesterday, so that it's black. It's not dusty. As you can see, it's like crazy dusty already, right? And you can clean that again. So this part, that's a cover, right? Just make sure you don't screw it up. So put the cover, next to your screws when you're cleaning so you don't mess it up. And then if you look inside, on this side, this is the side with the single pin of the brush. The other side is the square peg one. So this is the single pin side. If you look in there, it's very dusty, and there's a spring in there and the wheel in there. So in this situation, I'll just use the toothbrush, to try to clean it like that. If you really feel like it, you can take this black wheel out along with the spring, right? It's quite hard to get it out. You have to reach underneath, your finger underneath, push into that wheel, right? And somehow just force it out along with the spring. Putting it back in, it's a bit harder even because the spring has to sit in a certain slot in the wheel. And then on the left side, on the left, wait, hang on. Okay, on the left side, it has to sit in that space. On the right side, there's a certain slot for the spring to sit on the wheel. So my advice is don't take this out. You don't have to, because this is not powered. This is not the square peg side. So even if you get this totally clean, this is not what's making your machine stuck. Okay, so that's a fix, point. You can think of it like that, but I like to clean it anyway. So just brush it, and then you can vacuum it. like that. And if you're still not satisfied, you can get a pair of tweezers and pick out all the gunk, you know, fiber or whatever collected in there, like that, and then wipe it on your piece of wet paper towel. You can do that, right? I'm not doing that now because I know this part isn't what's preventing the machine from working. Another thing you can do is you can blow in it and vacuum at the same time. So you can blow in it like that. See, it's nuts. And then you can, of course, you know, if you're not holding a camera, you'll be vacuuming. You know, if you're not holding a camera while you're doing it, you'll be vacuuming the same time you're blowing it. But after I blow it with the lens blower, you know, it's quite clean. Cool. And you can clean this side also if you like. But again, this is not the side that is screwing up your machine, so it doesn't matter really. Close it back up. Make sure the holes are aligned and screw the things back in. Try not to drop them. Okay. When I screw wood screws like that, the sharp ones back in, I don't just screw it in. I turn it backwards until I hear a click, so that I know I'm not creating new threads in the plastic. Make it looser next time. So I turn it counterclockwise. See, click, then I turn it. Then it'll be super smooth. It's a nice trick. So the other one, turn it counterclockwise, backwards, click, then I do it. Great! Part's done. This part, this is the crazy part. You'll see what I mean. Taking it out is exactly the same. So just unscrew that. The black screws, remember. Just ignore the silver ones for now. Oh my god, it's scary. Okay. It's behind wires, that's why. I want to take this one out first, in case it drops behind. Set that aside. The other screws, only 2 screws here. One out. You actually hear the click, so you know when it's done. So take this one out. That, set it aside. And then you're done. So just 2 screws. This is a cover, right? But this cover is under a little bit of tension, so it's not going to come out as easy as the one on the left. So but anyway, just pull it out. It's really tight, like the fit. It's really tight. So just pull it out like that, right? And as you can see, it fits, you know, barely. So see in that space, see, it fits barely. So you know what I mean. So when you put it back in, like, don't force it. Don't go like that. Don't do that. Don't Arno it. Just slowly, you know, slide it back in and then go down, like how you took it out. So you take this part out, the cover out, inspect it. Looks good. Some part of it's really thin. You can break it easily, so be careful. Take that cover out and set it aside with the 2 screws that it came with. And this part is the crazy part. I think I got enough light to show you. So if you look down there, yours isn't gonna be as clean as mine. I just cleaned mine yesterday. So yours probably can't even push this part. Like, you know, when you open yours up, you're gonna see a bunch of hair. It's nasty. And this is the part that you can't clean from inside the compartment. So after you use it for a year or 2, even though you did your regular maintenance, you clean all the hair out of that part, you can't reach this part unless you disassemble the machine. And inside here would be a lot of hair, all tangled up, all tied up. You can't even get it out. you know, there's no access for you to easily pull it out sideways. You can't do that. So what I end up doing was I had to use a pair of tweezers and just pick at the hair, like one by one, just going like for half an hour, just non-stop, just picking all the hair you can see out of this little compartment here, and just clean it on, you know, on a piece of wet paper towel like that. Go back, pick, clean it, go back, pick again, clean it, right? So even now, I just used like 2 cycles, right? Like yesterday night, I did 1 cycle. This morning, you know, I did another cycle. There are already piece of long hair like in here, see? It's stuck in here. So it's just a bad design. Like sooner or later, you know, you're gonna have a lot of hair in here and things gonna seize up on you. Like you turn it on, it'll walk 2 meters or 4 meters and it will stop. No matter what you do, no matter how much you clean, no matter how much battery you charge, this is the problem. So get to here, pick out all the hair, be patient. You know, you're gonna get frustrated because sometimes they don't move. Keep doing it. Now, and you think, oh, okay, I pick out all the hair. It felt clean to me, right? That's only a quarter of the problem, because now what you do is, after it feels clean to you, you reach your hand underneath and rotate the square peg with your finger by a quarter. So look. So if I reach underneath, the square peg is there, right? You rotate it by hand. And if you actually clean the hair, you will notice that it rotates way more easier, you know, when you're trying to rotate it this time. So, but anyway, you have to rotate the square peg by hand by a quarter, so it turns in there. It probably won't show on the camera, I'm not sure, but you see it's turning in there when you rotate it by hand. Just rotate it by a quarter, so one side of the square, and then start picking again. So pick, clean it, pick again, clean it, and then you rotate again. So you're only gonna do that 4 times, but make sure you do a good job so you don't have to rotate again after the 4th time. So after you do all that, I hope it shows. After you do all that, you will notice that this black part, it's free to move all of a sudden. Like before, it's totally seized up. Now, you could push it, see? It moves. This part, this part is supposed to be able to freely move like that. Before, what happened was all the hair tied up in the silver pin, and this part weren't allowed to move, so the machine stops. So just make sure you do a good job with this. Like don't rush it. Just do it. You might as well do it. You have it open anyway. Just do a really good job of it, and it's gonna run for a year or 2 again before you need to do this again. But if you don't do a good job and close it back up, it's gonna seize up on you in 3 months, and you're not gonna like it. Right, just to show you guys how to put the 2 halves back together. I already went ahead to after you clean all the hair out, did a good job. Rotate all 4 sides of the square peg by hand, clean all 4 sides, pick all the hair, make sure it's clean, put the cover back on, and put the 2 screws back on already. So now, and make sure the springs are attached to the hooks. All good. Now you put the other, put the cover back on. It can get tricky, but not really, as long as you line up everything well from the back here. See the charging ports, and leave it on like that. Just basically, okay. It falls down by itself. It will find the correct way to fall down by itself. Inspect all the seams. Make sure it's actually good. Looks good, right? And then remember the 3 parts? We put the top part in first, and these things have to go back into the holes. So line them up. line them up. That one's lined up. Yep. When all 4 holes are lined up. Oh, come on. There we go. All 4 holes are lined up. You know, it will go back into its original position. Just like that. It's great. When you turn it over, there's a risk it will fall back out again, but not really if you're careful and you got 2 hands. So turn it over. Hi. There we go. It's good. You know it's good because the thing sticks out from the holes like that, right? Now the rubber gasket. There's no front or back side, so even if you forgot which way it goes on, doesn't really matter. You can go on both ways. So just hold the gasket and stick the rings back into the hole, the peg, like that. Put all the rings back first. Don't worry about the edge. Do the holes, and then now you slowly fit the gasket back down on the edge of the top cap. Make sure it go around it. Make sure it's nice and tight. It doesn't go tight. You just have to make sure that it sits well, on the cap. So looks good to me. And then the last part, is the bottom cover. So when you put this back on, again, you have to line up the holes with the screws. I left the screws in there, you see? Left the screws in there. So the screws have to go back into those holes. Like that, right? So anyway, you get it. Just make sure the screws lines up into the hole, and then you would push your small screwdriver in there and torque down every screw. These 4s are quite hard to do because they're flat. But make sure you torque them down. You don't have to totally torque it like totally factory. It could be a little bit loose. It doesn't matter, because as long as the sensor sense a bump, it's gonna go back. Just not too loose. Not that it'll fall off, but it's gonna be really difficult to torque them back down like the factory spec. I notice, but try to do your best. After you torque these 4 down, you just go backwards, referencing to your chart. Just rotate the housing of this one, find the hole, do that one, then the one inside the battery compartment, 2 here, 2 here, and install the battery and everything else, and you're done. So hope this helps. See you. Bye bye. Just another clip to show you how you can test the machine before you put it back together. You need a cardboard to cover the 3 sensors at the bottom of the machine to fold it so that it thinks it's running on the floor. You need to put the battery back in, turn the switch back on, and also reach your hand under the PCB and press the cycle buttons next to the speakers on the circuit board itself. And if it runs more than 10-15 seconds, 20 seconds, you know it's good to go. The second clip is just to show you that it works. Yesterday, after I fixed it, I put it back together again and tested it. Vacuumed the whole house today. Quite happy. So I hope that video helped you. And remember to drop a like if it helps, because the more likes I get, the higher the video is going to be listed when people search for it when they encounter the same problem. So try to like it. Thank you. Bye bye.